You know, in a time in which I think we tend to increasingly talk and recognize climate change as the main challenge of the of the urban and Anthropocene era, we felt that it was very, very important to just to bring this, this old topic and this old challenge back onto the table, but with perhaps with a different perspective.
With the Sustainable Development Goals in the process of soon being finalized and implemented, there has been now a shift to universal access, obviously trying to find a way to activate people's right to water and sanitation.
We are witnessing a very rich and interesting process of, new targets, new indicators, new goals being set up.
And water justice obviously is very important, because that comes into play when we are trying to think about ways to provide everyone with adequate access to water and sanitation services.
The gap in urban cities continues to increase, and we are underestimating it grossly because we know very little, particularly about how water and sanitation is featuring in peri-urban areas. And I'm talking about fast urbanizing areas, areas that are likely to live without formal infrastructure as we know it.
We are focusing on 3 quite diverse urban settings to be able to then learn from each other in terms of what seems to be working and what doesn't seem to be working.
There's quite a lot of water challenges which are affecting the Dar es Salaam city, particularly the people living in informal settlements. Most of the peri-urban areas, they lack a proper utility network of water supply. So that's a very, very huge challenge because now they depend very much on alternative water services.
When we're talking about peri-urbanization or peri-urban areas, I think what is really important is not to forget about the temporal aspect of it. So you might have areas that used to be characterized as peri-urban, but now have been incorporated maybe a little bit more into the urban core of a city, but still significantly lag behind in terms of service provision.
The peri-urban areas have remained a grey area in many ways, and that's why options left for these people are largely individual or community organized options.
Cochabamba was made famous back in 2000-2001 during the water wars. Unfortunately, in the sort of 10-15 years that followed, the public water utility has made no progress on improving access to water, and so most people who have access to the only people that really have access to water in the city live in the centre.
There's a big difference in coverage and service quality and price also. Right now, the municipal utility does not relate to the community systems, and that creates a lot of difference and injustice in water provision.
We have water injustices inbuilt in the city since a long time, because and the situation is also slightly different from other cities, even other Indian cities, because Kolkata is not a water scarce region; it's a water flush region. You find that the peri-urban interface lies mostly in the form of wetlands. The relationship is mutually interdependent because the PUI depends from the city on wastewater and also the solid waste, because otherwise you cannot generate the arable, the vegetables, the cereals and paddy that are produced by the people, the community in a collective way, and also the fishes.
So if I use the word access to safe drinking water, now I would say it has been denied to the large number of people who are giving unthinkable ecological services to the city. But most of the people, they don't have that solid municipal supply in that area. So they are going for the bore well and using the groundwater to meet the demand.
Very often debates on water justice just stop at the distributional level. And that's problematic. And by this we mean that it's equally important to understand that water injustices happen in the first place, and maldistribution happens in the first place because certain groups remains invisible. In other words, it's misrecognized.
We developed what we refer to as the water wheel and the sanitation wheel. On the one hand, you have policy-driven interventions that are largely driven by the state, and then on the other hand you have all the needs-driven practices. Then of course you have a range which we are trying to zoom in with this project, which we refer to as co-produced.
For example, the municipal utility can be in charge of bringing and producing the water, treating the water, ensuring water quality, and community systems can be in charge of distributing the water everywhere, including the poorest areas around the city which are not currently served.
There has been sort of collaboration between the utility sinking boreholes and giving the community to manage the boreholes, and also the water vendors can collect water to those water points.
It's not that the government is totally indifferent, but the government is also providing water, very low amount of water, but at least the public tankers are moving in those areas and providing water free of cost in the neighborhoods.
I see a lot of option in the sense that if there are multiple stakeholders engage in different options and opportunities, and where they will co-produce and co-supply water, and in the basis of that one reach different categories of income group and social groups. That's one of the options which I see.
We are zooming in to an area that is really underexplored.
The way we are doing that is by creating what we call these action learning hubs.
We know that these co-production platforms exist, but we don't know enough about it. We don't really know the impact that they have and also how well they serve and are accessible to the people living in those settlements.
And the idea is that in each city we expect that the project will not just produce further knowledge, but use a method that will be sustainable and produce a legacy that will live hopefully beyond the life of the project. What we see is a very important difference between addressing the practical needs, but the need also to move into more aspirational practice and theory as well, that allows us to think not only about water and sanitation deficits and how we're going to meet those deficits, but also at how by changing the way in which we go about meeting water injustices, we can also address what in the gender world is called the strategic needs of those who are typically misrecognized.
So as the state has developed an attitude which is one of accepting and recognising the role that water committees play, they've also been invited to participate in consultations and meetings around the development of water policy and governance structures in Bolivia.
So if these actors, they don't really collaborate and work together, you really end up having those kind of situations like what is happening now. That you have a plan for bigger city, but the services are not there. So this is not really good.
I personally feel, having learned what I'm coming over to very short period to Tanzania and hearing the experience of my colleagues in Bolivia, can we, through an initiative, if this project comes up, take up this initiative of mobilizing the local stakeholder, make them understand how the ownership of the entire drinking water system can be taken up by them through an arrangement by which they can share the responsibility, distribution.
So there is a lot of transformative potential which can basically, if properly used, can really amount a lot, not only for the peri-urban area, the peri-urban people, but also for the long-term environmental sustainability of the region.
And I think that these three perspectives clearly start to talk to a richer understanding of what water justice means.